Is Mr. Olson for 5 minutes.
I thank the chair, excuse me, and welcome to our three witnesses. Also want to thank y'all for your years, decades of service on the thin blue line. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that. My questions will focus on one big storm, again, excuse me, Hurricane Harvey. As y'all know, it hit my hometown, my home region, twice, moving very, very slow. Dropped on average 40 inches of rain in 2 days, almost 4 feet of rain over almost all southeast Texas. 911 was overwhelmed with calls. As Ranking Member Doyle mentioned in his opening statement, people could not get through with the calls. One example I heard back home, a senior citizen, his wife, their home was flooding. They called 911 for about an hour, could not get through. Somehow they planned to go to Chick-fil-A after they were rescued. They made that call to Chick-fil-A, that went through. And for some reason, only known to God and luck, Chick-fil-A showed up and rescued those two people. Mr. Curry, before this here, you told me a great story about how big difference between Kingwood, New Jersey and Kingwood, Texas. Apparently during Hurricane Harvey, someone was misrouted from Kingwood, Texas to Kingwood, New Jersey. And your people stuck with this person over and over and got them rescued back home in Kingwood, Texas. So thank you for that again, but that's lucky as opposed to having a plan. I want to talk about the Brooks SU bill, the HR 5700 National Emergency Mobile Number Act. And my hometown of Sugar Land has a 311 system already that opened up last year. I found out at the mayor's big annual State of the City address. It works. About 2 months ago, I'm riding down my street. There's a big branch down the sidewalk. I called up 311. Within hours, that branch is gone. But my neighbors had no clue that 311 was available. No idea it was out there. And so the question is, how can people determine, how do you determine what's a true emergency for 911 and what's a non-emergency for 311? Can callers differentiate between 911 and 311, in your opinion, Mr. Reyes, Mr. Curry, and Mr. Starks? What's the challenge there to get them to know what's really an emergency and what's not?
So, sir, we do not have 311 in Prince William County, but from talking to some municipalities that do have 311, they embed in the voice calling options. If you dial 311, for example, when it answers, the voice tree answer says if you have an emergency, press 1, and then it reroutes you over to 911. So that's my only experience with 311, but we are not a 311.
How do you deal with Chick-fil-A calling up you guys at 911? How do you deal with that situation? How do you get them off your line? Because that's clearly not an emergency.
Well, that happens on our 10-digit non-emergency. So our county has a 10-digit non-emergency number that the county residents use. And so when they dial 911 and it's a non-emergency call, our call takers divert them to the non-emergency calls internally. And then we're doing an education program within our county at the school level where we're reaching out to kids. We just awarded 4 kids on Saturday awards for making the right call because in school they learned the awesome power of 911 and how to use it properly. So I think we got to do something similar with the non-emergency number.
Great. Mr. Curry, your comments on?
Because we handle all the phone calls for each municipal police agency in Hunterdon County, if somebody were to call on the non-emergency, and they do, they call in a non-emergency 10-digit number, because all the calls come to the same center, it wouldn't be an issue for us.
Yep.
Because the same dispatchers who take the 911 calls they're in that same room, and they can just as easily handle that 311, for example. And we're going to take the same number of calls if it's 911, 311, or the 10-digit number, because if they're going to call, they're going to call. It's just a matter of the method in which they decide to use and what's most beneficial for them and what's most beneficial for us.
Captain Starks.
Like Mr. Reyes, we have a 10-digit non-emergency number, but getting that number in people's heads is very, very tough. And 911 is just so much easier to remember. The county has started a 311 line. It's separate from our emergency call center, and it's a very deliberate process. But like Mr. Reyes said at the beginning, if you think you have an emergency, that message is given, and it directs people to the 911.